The first part of the series was actually pretty successful, gaining 200 views, which is pretty surprising. I didn't think the first part would gain 200 views. So we did make two parts. I didn't know if this would be successful or not. So we're going to a part 3. So this is what if Asia rose instead of Europe. And we ended basically with the expansion of the Chinese civilizations, the expansion of Southeast Asia, and the further development of India. Yeah. However, we'll be doing the first part, which is a new civilization in Yemen. Someone asked for that. So there'll be a civilization in Yemen. Yeah. Yeah. This country will have split off from settlers from this civilization right here, Potamo, and Travessa. Yeah. This civilization will be called Yamai. And its capital will be right on the ocean right here. Here. So that is the new civilization. Continuing with the Chinese civilization and the rise of China. Now we're going to have Xin expanding over here. Here, which is of course which was a spin-off of the Indian civilizations. Here. Here. Xin continues to expand as well and forms kind of like the first Chinese real dynasty, which does not like these two civilizations do not like Xin expanding, along with the Korean country as well. They form an alliance to basically stop the expansion of Xin as well, which is this basically the dynasty name, kind of like in modern day China. They also expand for the south here, and here. Another civilization rises in southern China. Right here, alongside this area here, this unnamed civilization will be basically along the trade route. Will be ignored amongst the trade routes. For example, this is we're going to be going over the major trade route here. There's one in this capital here, and here. There's one here. It goes up to here. Trade route also goes up to here as well, and goes up towards northern India, and also goes down towards southern India as well. Here, and goes towards Bisa as well, and then it goes towards many of the uninhabited areas here as well, and it goes down, but this civilization is not really touched at this moment. Same thing with this Burmese civilization, which means these civilizations down here are very poor as well. Same thing with Yami and Travessa, as most of the world does not really trade with these two civilizations either. Not giving them much power in the world affairs. The first civilization in Europe begins here, and it is basically a new country that is formed here, that basically wants to create a civilization in this unknown continent. This is Saka. That is the civilization name. And it's the second, actually it's the third civilization to appear in Europe besides the Blue Sea Trading Empire and Dante and Feta, which were once one country, once one union, Dantfi or Danta, but they split apart into two countries because the Silvan ethnicity didn't really get much representation in the parliament and in the government, so they split apart, forming two distinct nations. Gatana, meanwhile, starts to expand further east as well. Meanwhile, Pentananen starts to see that there's this massive sea here, and they basically surround it here. However, a revolution happens, and Pentananen, then it becomes the chiefdom of Pentanamen. Meanwhile, the civilization of Aston and Prex, that's this country's name, Prex creates expands further over here to basically connect the trade route from the barbarians. This is a very costly adventure, but it connects Aston towards Prex. Aston, however, starts to expand towards more of the uninhabited areas of Afghanistan, and that area, taking over a bunch of land basically over here. Also, the expansion into northern India begins, and basically they start to expand towards the Himalayas, but stop basically at where the Himalayas are, which is probably, I think, right around here. Dorsa starts to expand as well, while regaining back some of the former glory that they used to have. Dorsa was not a very successful civilization, but Dorsa is a pretty wealthy civilization in India. Tisa, which is a very, very successful country, also expands more north and promises to treat its provinces better. This northern province of Tisa starts to expand as well, and starts to expand into the Bengali area, which was abandoned as well. And this province was called Nakata Tata, and this country expands into basically this area right here, expanding the Indian civilization even more. This area, which is its old people, mostly people from this area, start to form a civilization down here, basically taking over a bunch of coastal regions, and annexing a bunch of the areas down here, alongside taking over most of this coastal region. They basically create a city right here, and this civilization will be called Zeza, which is basically their name for land, their language name for land. Now let's get some wars happening. There was a border dispute over this land here. Basically, the area population has started to gone up here, and Kanta and Tamara do not agree over who should own these two provinces. Kanta thinks that their borders should extend here, meanwhile Tamara thinks the borders should be as it is. Kanta and Tamara go to war over this as well, and they start to basically fight over this border dispute. This border dispute starts to basically escalate as Kanta actually has basically built their military up to be very big. As Kanta has population has boomed, especially alongside the Nile River, so Kanta has been able to basically expand. But Tamara finally resettles its military, as Tamara has around 15 million people, meanwhile Kanta has 10 million people. Well, both countries are not really too populated. Tamara starts to basically take back some of its land here, and the new border might be settled to be around here. Both countries can't agree here, so Sumer and Trinket basically come in as third parties to basically settle the border. To make both sides happy, Kanta gets this coastal area, meanwhile Tamara gets to annex this little area here, making both sides happy. Meanwhile, Tamara starts to expand even more into Anatolia, but a bunch of settlers escape from Tamara and create another civilization here. This is another Anatolian civilization, and this country starts to expand pretty rapidly to create a country for their own people and ethnicity, which is the Phrygians. The Phrygians now create their own nation state and always start to have pretty close ties with Tamara as a country, and basically the capital is also right on the border with Tamara as well. It might be a bad pretty bad if Tamara gets a pretty bad government in the future. But at this current moment, Tamara and the Fezzans are friends. The Fezzani Republic was the second republic in all of history, besides this Japanese country right here, was the only country to really try a republic-style government here. Same thing with these, and also Dante and Feta also tried a republic, and they're still republics. Most countries are still kingdoms, like Tamara is still a kingdom, but the current king likes the Fezzan country, and they both start to get along for trade purposes. The original Trevesta Empire is a shadow of its former self. They start to expand further north. Here, the Trevesta civilization starts to expand north. They fail to do so because of the original borders, but they start to expand pretty fast. Here. And they were humiliated by the Astan and Popi countries. The Trevesta dynasty now controls a lot of land here. They also moved the capital to the new planned capital city, which is around right here. This is a very much more defensible capital city, as most countries are not going to naval invade the city. So it's a very much more defensible and much more strategic capital city than the old capital city here. Most of this area is still extremely underpopulated, so they're going to have to wait to see how much the population is here. For example, we're going to go over the population density of the world here. And a lot of this area is pretty densely populated. A lot of this part of India is pretty densely populated, and this little part of China is densely populated as well. Population density is going up around the world. Also, the Nile is too densely populated as well. So, Canada starts to see potential in Africa and starts to expand south here, discovering that there is actually way more land than expected. They really thought this was like some weird area here. Yeah, but they really realized this is like a whole continent they could have to themselves. They don't know that yet, but this is basically what they have discovered here. And most of the Middle East hasn't really been settled yet, but Canada also starts to settle the Sinai as well here. And these trading countries start to be formed here. They also start to discover remnants of a former civilization here. There were a bunch of city-states here at the very beginning. They all fell, basically, and now there is a massive country here in place of these city-states as well. Canada starts to have a population and economic boom, especially in the southern portion of the country, where they start to pour in a lot of resources here. Canada also declares itself the Cantonese Empire, but we'll be just referring to the country as the Canada. The people are mostly still Cantonese people, but however, a rival civilization of mostly Cantonese people, mostly the oppressed minorities up here, start to form a civilization here. We're using this yellowish color for the civilization, but this is a new civilization of the oppressed Monamo minority ethnicities. The Monamo don't like being a part of the Cantonese, so this is the Monamo civilization, basically. They do not like being a part of the massive country, so a lot of the Monamo flee as refugees, as the Cantonese Empire continues to expand. The Cantonese Empire also goes into conflict with Trevesa, which is a country that has been stagnating for decades as well. This causes conflict between both nations. They start to invade the Trevesa as well, which this is one of the OG countries, but the massive empire starts to basically defeat them relatively easily as well. The Cantonese Empire starts to defeat Trevesa as well, and Trevesa loses the battle here. Trevesa will still exist as a nation, but they'll lose some coastal towns as well, and they'll basically lose. They won't lose the capital city, but they'll also lose a southern coastal town, basically destroying their entire economy. And Traversa is now basically a cell of its former self. Yeah. Meanwhile, the expansion in the Asian civilization continues. Zessa continues to expand eastward as well. Creating a very big country. This area is still very sparsely populated. So most of the history is still going on. It's going on in the Middle East and India. With Ajax, Prex, and Arax, there was a war between Ajax and Arax. Ajax starts to invade from the northern portion of the country. Meanwhile, Nairo sees this as an opportunity to defeat both countries. Nairo, which was originally named Nairo, but changed its name to Nairo based off the, language of the area. The language changed, so the country's name is now Nairo. Nairo also starts to invade Ajax, Arax starts to take back a lot of its land. All three countries agree in a peace treaty as well. Ajax will lose this northern province here as well, and Arax will also gain this southern portion here. Ajax has now been eliminated as a civilization, so it is now just split into two provinces here as well. Basically, this country will be kind of like an oppressed minority for the foreseeable future. Dorsa starts to expand further north, but then they realize there's a massive mountain range in the way, which is the Himalayas as well, and they can't really expand north. This causes a massive barrier here, and they wonder how some of the people managed to flee towards China using the Himalayan mountains. Meanwhile, a new civilization, which is basically the intermediate between the Chinese civilization and Dorsa, is created, which is a Tibetan-style civilization, which is a massive nomadic civilization, which is called the Tulsa Nomads. This country does not have a capital city, as they are a nomadic country. They're basically this world's version of Tibet. They're not really a civilization, so we'll be putting them in the gray here. They'll be considered an embryonic civilization. But basically, these people will be here as well, and mostly consists of people of Dorsa, Tisa, and Nairo. Creating their own civilization. Meanwhile, another civilization appears in this river here, starting another Chinese country. This civilization was formed right here. It is mostly based around the river. Sinan is a new civilization formed right here, and basically there's tensions between Sisa and Sinan, as Taufsa also starts to expand south and as well, creating tension between all of these countries down here. These two countries immediately go to war because of Traversa's expansion. Sinan starts to push back, but the reason Sinan is not going to win this war is because Sinan is not a very densely populated country. Sinan only has a population of like 8 million at this current moment, and starts to push back toward the capital. Both countries, however, sue for peace, and Tulsa basically gains the lands that they wanted to take. This angers Tavi, which is a trade civilization. Tavi starts to make a small colony in Korea, here in South Korea here. Meanwhile, Katsa, which is basically just a Korean civilization, starts to expand in the southern portion of Korea. This causes tension between all three of these nations even more here, as all three countries may go to war pretty soon. Katsa also creates a border with Xin, which is the OG Chinese civilization, as well. Also, we'll be putting the word Katsa into the country borders now instead of making it a here. 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 And Katsa basically starts a war of Zin. Here. This is basically like the Battle of Nepali or Persia. The Katsa starts to invade parts of Zin here, but this corridor becomes a pretty difficult thing. They do manage to take out the lesser populated areas here, but this area has way more population, has way more soldiers at the front. Zin is way more densely populated than Katsa, and starts to make there is gonna be a massive bloodbath here over a decade of war, and the border has not moved. Both the Emperor of Zin and Kaiser make an agreement to basically set the border here to satisfy both nations. So Katsa does gain some land out of this confrontation, but they can't really go any further. Katsa also decides to go further north to annex a lot of these lands here. But as the agreement, they can't go any more northern than Zin, which pisses off the king of Katsa almost certainly. Here. Meanwhile, Zin gets another rival here, with a rival king breaks away from Zin, and basically creates his own country. Both countries have the same ethnicity, but this rival king creates a civilization or a country here, which is his rival family, Numar. Numar creates his own rival civilization to Zin, with the dynasty that has been around for at least 500 years at this point. But the dynasty is not going too well, as basically the current emperor has no male heirs. But there's always been something that is guaranteed, but for some reason the Zinese dynasty might go to an end because all three of this current emperor's people currently are all females, which means they might have to elect a new family as the dynasty. Zin, which was the first dynasty of the current China, now reforms into Ri, which is the new dynasty. The Ri dynasty is basically created from one of the female heirs and a new family named Ri. They basically create a new dynasty. Basically, they'll still be the same color because it's the same country, the same exact civilization, but because of this heir issue, they hope it doesn't happen again. Meanwhile, the Nima laughs at the demise of the Zin dynasty. This causes both countries to go into a conflict. Nima starts to take out some of the outer provinces, but they get pushed back because of Ri's massive army. The Ri dynasty's massive army. Here, there was a massive border here, and basically they pick a peace deal and create the first border wall, which is the Great Wall of Ri, or basically the Great Wall of China, to separate Ri from Nima. Well, hopefully ending all future conflicts between both countries. Here. Gautama starts to annex some more of these areas here, as this area here continues to expand. Here. Krika starts to expand further into the Balkan Peninsula, but they still see it as kind of like as surprisingly, there's this massive continent right here, and they start to annex some of the area, which is Greece. They see it as pretty hard to traverse, as Greece is a very mountainous country, and it's very hard to farm in Krika. Compared to China, where it's very easy and there's rapid population growth in China and India, Europe, which doesn't really have many people at this current moment, around 2 to 3 million people outside of Krika and the Blue Sea trading city-states, and Dante and Feta, most of Europe is very unpopulated. Krika only has around 1.6 million people. The trading states only have 1.7 million people. Dante has around 2.6 million people, and Feta only has 2.4 million people. This isn't a very populated area here at this current moment. And population growth in this area has been kind of stagnant. It was growing very fast last episode, but at the current age of 600 BC, the population has been very stagnant in this area. Here, the Monama start to expand further into Libya. They start to go further and further away from the original civilization, creating a new, seeing that there's a lot of land here. But they see that most of the land south of here is very uninhabitable here, and they also moved the capital to around here to stay away, to be further away as possible from Kata as well. The people here had enough of this dilly-dally between Tamara and Katsa and start a war of independence. Yeah, the War of Independence is very bloody, and and most of this country starts to create its own area, its own currency, its own language, kind of like these central civilizations here. These civilizations here start to create their own country. Because they're sick and tired of being tossed around like rag dolls. So basically, Kanta and Tamara agree that this country will exist at this current state as a buffer state. Juri, which is for the Juri people, now finally have their own separate civilization. After centuries of oppression, they're finally free. The first religion, which is, we have the Julian religions here, we have the Dantean religions here, we have the old, Sun religion, we have the Dawson religion, which is the Swift religion, and we have the Chinese religions right here. The expansion of Tommy continues into the northern area here of Arabia, but it's mostly desert as well. Also, Portamo starts to expand into the inner parts of Arabia. They do settle this area here, creating basically so they can have claim over this area. So Portama, was once a small trade hub, now is an actual legitimate civilization. Potamu is now an actual legitimate civilization. Potamu also starts to expand towards the north as well, meeting up with this country of Popi as well here. Popi has a small access to the coast right here. As part of some treaty, and it is basically Popi is basically just a buffer state between all three of these states. Potamu is not a very powerful country as it only has a population of 5.6 million, but the population is expanding pretty fast for a country that is not very hospitable and doesn't really have much farmland. The connecting with the outside world is definitely helping as well. Meanwhile, Aston has imperial ambitions. They start to expand into India. Expanding the borders towards the Himalayas. They see Plex as a massive threat and start to invade the country. Plex is basically defeated relatively quickly, and Nairo and Alex have to create an alliance to stop Aston's expansion. As well. Again, this is one of the OG countries as well, and also Popi and Travesta, which are both allies of Aston, are hoping Aston doesn't betray them. But the invasion of the Indian subcontinent might be of a very concerning thing and trend in the future of the world. Basically, maybe even destroying a lot of these countries, and they may never exist again. Meanwhile, Nakota and the Beeson civilizations create a new civilization here. Basically, this is a country that's basically in the trade route as well. This new civilization will go nameless for now. But yeah. And that is end of part 3 of this series. So we saw a major expansion in Aztec. We saw a major change in China, in Korea. Not really much change out of Japan, as they really haven't really explored the rest of Japan. They really still think this is just one little island here, and that's all. There was a new civilization in southern China. Not much out of Southeast Asia just yet. And also the first expansion into Europe, and the first expansions into Africa. And also the Yemeni civilization is created as well. So that's about this video here. Goodbye.